Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MFFL Nation podcast. I'm here with my co-host Amir and special guest MFFL Evan. What's going on, Amir? What's going on, Evan?
What's going on? What's going on?
Going.
Doing good, man. And a rough game for the Mavericks today, to say the least. That one hurt. That one hurt a lot. Wasn't really expected with no Kawhi. And you go back and look at the game. I mean, obviously, the second quarter is what killed us. Um, 8 points in the second quarter. James Harden went off. Russell Westbrook started talking trash to PJ Washington, and from there, it just became a downhill shit show, putting it nicely. And you know, the Mavericks, in a way, showed some resiliency. But to talk about the first half, what were your guys' first half thoughts, Amir?
I can go first if that helps, sir.
Yeah, Amir, we can't hear you. Evan, feel free.
All right, man. So I think my biggest first half takeaway was I'm assuming this is what their defensive strategy was to begin with, but the Clippers, to their credit, they did the real good strategy of what the Warriors kind of coined back then, where it's like they let Luka kind of do what Luka was gonna do, and they
Yep.
shut down everybody else. They shut down Kyrie. Like they made Kyrie a non-factor in that first half for the most part. Um, I think he only had one field goal at halftime. I could be mistaken, but I know he was scoring, but it wasn't. He did not play well.
Yeah,
He did amazing.
I
I'm
think
not
it
saying
was
he had a
like
bad game. He's not the reason bombs.
I think it was like 1 for 6.
Yeah, and he turned it around obviously. But my biggest first half takeaway was one. We played like the Mavericks of old. We didn't drive enough, in my opinion, and I don't think the ball moved enough. I think Luka shot a lot of unnecessary threes at times. Um, I also think that this is something I'll ask y'all later, but Gafford struggled with Zubac on the inside. I don't know if that's something we have to look at happening again because Gafford I know since come out and said like I got to be ready, I got to play more physical, and I think the team as a whole just did not physically play well. But I just wonder if Jason Kidd's going to look at that matchup down the road and be like, do I need to go back for this series and start Derek Lively just for the sake of he's going to have that size with Gafford? Because I think the thing we trade off for Gafford and Lively is Gafford is going to be better, in my opinion, offensively, even though he's just as good defensively as a rim protector. Lively is going to be a bit better paint protection because it's noticeably different when Lively's in the game. How people don't want to go to the paint versus Gafford. And I'm not saying that Gafford doesn't deter people from the paint, but I think it's noticeably different. Like there are times
Yeah,
in games watching people go up to the paint and they don't want to challenge him. So
yeah,
those are my key takeaways.
Amir.
Can y'all hear me now? Am I good?
Yep, yep,
Yeah, so I agree with pretty much everything Evan said. And just also, they just really locked us down defensively in that first half. Um, couldn't get the ball moving, just like y'all said, looked like Mavs of old, just had to rely on ISO, take tough shots. But honestly, though, it was just a lot of missing, like, pretty solid shots. Like, we got shots in the corner that, like, we should be hitting, and they just weren't falling. And yeah, just defensively inside, just Zubats was in. I think he was eating up both Gafford and Lively when they were playing. Uh, and also just they're hitting a lot of tough shots.
yep.
Harden played really, really well. Even Westbrook had some impact minutes for them. Uh, Players that don't usually hit threes for them were hitting threes, like Terrence Mann, Westbrook, those kind of guys. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
second half looked better for
yeah, I
sure.
agree with you there. The first half was it was a mess. Like you said, some guys that aren't supposed to hit threes. Um, Russell Westbrook, I mean, he got in PJ's head and PJ missed a free throw, and then Westbrook started going off, and from there on out, it sort of got messy. And I said this on the Twitter space. We had a pretty good Twitter space going on earlier. Evan was on there as well. Um, the Westbrook PJ moment sort of reminded me of Jimmy Butler and Grant Williams last year, where it was just like the dog was talking smack and the other guy just got cooked. But I'm not worried about PJ. I think what worries me the most is like, and I said this on our recent episode that I ran with Noah Weber, like you look at the matchups, like Lively and Gafford did very well against Jokic when they played against Denver and they won that game. And so you would think against Jokic like that, a bigger, bulkier build, less athletic, that Gafford and Lively could hold their ground against Zubats, and it was just the complete opposite today. Zubats had a career high in his playoff career with 20 points, had 15 rebounds, and he completely took the Mavs out of their offense too. I brought up a good point earlier, and credit and kudos to the Clippers. I mean, their pick and roll defense in the whole game was just phenomenal. Luka, someone who really relies on the pick and roll game and to get to the basket or throw up the lob, was completely shut down off of that. The bigs, Plumlee and Zubats, guarded that perfectly, I thought. There was a bunch of missed dunks, and that was sort of the reason why. Gafford missed a few dunks, Lively missed some. There was easy shots missed. The Tim Hardaway layup really sticks out to me. That was just god awful. And it was really bad. I mean, Derek Jones Jr. was bad. Gafford couldn't make a shot to save his life, and I thought people don't like talking about it, but Dante Exum did not play good either. Dante Exum played very poorly, and so did Maxi Kleber. Defensively, Maxi did all right, but you look at the playoff teams that are winning as of lately. Every team that's won, if you go back to yesterday, the Cavs won. The role players played well. Timberwolves role players played well. Knicks role players played well. The Nuggets role players played well. The Celtics had their guys play well, and right now the Bucks and the Clippers had all their role players play well, and that's one of the main reasons that the Mavs didn't get this win. Luka and Kyrie combined for 60 plus, and this third leading scorer was PJ Washington with 11, and the fourth was Tim Hardaway with 6, which just is inexcusable. You can't win playoff games like that, especially against a team with depth like the Clippers. So moving towards the second half, what were some things that stuck out to you guys about, before I say that, I watched JJ Redick and LeBron's podcast Mind the Game, and LeBron brought up a point saying that sometimes even when you win the game, you lose it at the same time. When you have guys like that get off in the fourth quarter and heat up and everything. And I think that's sort of how this Mavs Clipper series will stand out, because they let Kyrie and Luka get in a rhythm. They let them find Josh Green could be that role player. So the Mavs figured things out in a loss. But what do you guys think about the second half?
Going off what you said, I think Josh Green was one of the. It's crazy enough. Not biggest, but he had like a limited role. But those limited minutes he played, even towards like the end where it was like, oh, we lost the game, it stuck out. Because I think the biggest thing that stuck out was he's playing aggressively. I remember last year the big thing that stuck out with Josh Green before he even got the starting spot at the small forward position was the energy he brought off the bench. Like you could feel a game kind of change when he got in the game. That's how it felt. He was aggressive. He was fighting over screens. I know it's always been his weakness on the defensive end, but he was actually like he was a true net positive in everything he did. That was a big thing. And the second half, another thing that I thought was really good was we didn't. If we're being honest, I don't have the numbers, but I would like to say from watching that game, we won the second half. If we look
Yeah,
at
we won the second half by 14.
Yeah.
And that was what I was thinking. I was just like, we lost this game in the second quarter. That's when we lost this game. It was just there was nothing we could do because we were. I put on Twitter myself. I was like, see, we're playing good, but I said, here's the problem: when you're down by 30, you're in a hole. You can't make mistakes. The Clippers could turn the ball over 4 times and they could still be up by 15, and then hit a shot, and that kills our momentum. But I ultimately think the best thing that came out of this game was, like you said, Luka and Kyrie got a rhythm. And I think we see which role players can and can't be factors at times. I saw Jason Gallagher retweeted it actually, was Maxi Kleber. And I'm not trying to harp on Maxi because I think defensively he's really good, but I'll stand by. He's at his best at the power forward position when he can play next to a center. And I get the idea is to play that stretch 5 to where he can shoot the ball, but it doesn't work when he is not hitting shots and not aggressively taking them. I'm not saying he needs to chuck stuff up, but there was one time I remember where he had an open look and he hesitated, and I was like, "Oh, you got to fire that, even though you're not doing well. You got to shoot that."
Yeah,
And it just wasn't working, and it got to a point where it's like, "Alrighty, now you're being a negative on the offensive end, and that's what's killing us." So I think that's the biggest positive to me in the second half is that we lost that game offensively, which is something the Mavs don't really do. And I've even put this on Twitter too. I don't feel like the Clippers won that game. I think we lost that game. We
that's
beat
like,
ourselves.
bro. That's like the
I
that's
know how
like the
dumb
Russ that's like the Russ meme where it's like,
it is. It is.
did you
What?
guys
But like
Yeah.
the Clipper, in my opinion, the Clippers did not beat us. We beat ourselves. Like it was a whole bunch of mistakes.
Yeah, in a way I agree. And if you look at it too, Maxey was one of the main reasons we won that Jazz series. Eight
Facts. He
threes in
was.
one. So you gotta like Maxey's just gotta, bro. It's confidence with all these guys. A lot of these guys, it's their first ever playoff career game, and Luka and Kyrie,
Absolutely.
it's their first playoff game together. So like I think Mavs fans have to realize you got to give them a little time. And I think today's game was perfect for them to wake up and realize what the playoffs is about.
And
Um,
I was frustrated too, like for like a good hour after the game, I ain't gonna lie. But I was like, you know what? I was like, Gafford was on the Wizards. No hate to the Wizards, but they were never making no
yeah,
noise when he was there. I don't think the Bulls made the playoffs the few years he was there. PJ Washington's been on the Hornets. He had a great game. Or not great game, but he did good for what he was needed for. Played great defense on Paul George. That was another thing that was really good highlight.
yeah.
Um, and then just like you said, it's the playoffs. We can adjust. And I look back and I'm like, if we're being honest, it's not impossible to win this. In my opinion, game two has now became must win, no question, because Kawhi, in my opinion, will definitely be back by game three, if not game
Yeah,
two.
game three, yeah, but I think we see a similar situation with Luka in 2022, where since they win, since the Mavs won game two, Kawhi didn't play that, or Luka didn't play the game three. So I think we could see a similar thing where Kawhi doesn't play game two because they just
That's
won.
facts. Yeah.
But Amir, what were your second half thoughts as well?
Couple of things, couple like mostly positive, but some negative. I'll start with the negative first because I think it's the two things that we need to watch out for next game, which is one, the fact that when the Mavs were actually playing pretty well offensively, uh, the Clippers were able to stop all the runs that the Mavs were going on. Like every time, we get a couple shots and get 5, 7 points on the board, they would hit some like crazy shot or some, big three and get stopped or even just take a timeout to stop the momentum, right? And so I think that's something that we need to look at because I think something where today in the game, Teron Wu outcoached Jason Kidd was the fact that he was able to manage the runs that the Mavs are making much better than Jay Kidd was managing the Clippers runs that were going against us,
I
right?
don't I don't want to interrupt what you're saying because I love it. I just want to say something quickly.
Yeah.
Tyronn Lue is an ATO. If you guys don't know what ATO is, after the timeout play, he's an ATO genius. His after the
I,
timeout plays were phenomenal. I mean, they killed the Mavs, and credit to T. Lue. That was crazy. But Amir, keep going. But I had to say something about that.
can I just wanted to say real quick that speaking of ATO, that one play he drew up where he had to make us choose, am I guarding Harden or guarding PG-13? That was a really good play. I was like, as a basketball fan, I like that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, where PJ was a little late on the rotation there. That was actually a really good play. But in terms of and the other negative, I guess, is just rebounding. I think that it was worse in the first half and second half, but given our personnel, that is just a lot better this year than in previous years. I think we should have been a lot better on the boards, and that's something that's going to be just a crucial factor in the series. There was way too many times where the Clippers got second chance and third chance, possessions where, and then the times where the Mavs were getting rebounds is where the Mavs started closing the lead in the second half, right? So I think both in game two and just later on in the series, rebounding is going to be a huge factor in the series overall, just in both controlling second chance points and also just leading fast breaks because that was something that the Mavs did much better in the second half to kind of get into a rhythm. Something that something that comes to mind is where they got that jump ball and then Luka just threw it across the court to Kyrie, which started a better run that was going.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
I
yeah,
think I think when you look at it too, I mean, when you have two guys like Luka and Kyrie, you can be in any game regardless of the score. And I
yeah,
think today proved it. I mean, I think the Mavs were capable of coming back, but like I said earlier, role players couldn't hit shots, and that screwed us over. Maxey was 0 for 3 from three. Dante missed the three. PJ was 2 for 7. Derek Jones Jr. was a no-show. Um, Derek Jones Jr., in my opinion, he played decent defensively, but other than that, there was nothing to compliment his
I'm
game.
not right. Derek Jones Jr. didn't play the second half, right?
He played like he started the
Barely, I
second,
think
but
barely.
that was it.
I don't remember seeing him like
Yeah, I
do.
mean, and when I did, I don't know if you guys watched my podcast at all, but when I did an episode with Joel Moran, he talked about that Derek Jones Jr. could possibly be unplayable in the series because of his offensive skill set in the playoffs. And today sort of proved that point because, I mean, he just flat out struggled attacking the basket. He was hesitant on his shots. Um, he wasn't impacting the game in any way. I mean, he had 1 rebound, 0 assists, and 2 blocks, and was a minus 14. Um, Tim, I'm just so tired of Tim. Trade release him if you guys want to. I don't
He's
care.
out of here by next year.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
You give Josh either Tim or Derek Jones Jr.'s minutes. With the way he played today, I mean, he was the third highest plus minus in the whole game. He was the highest plus minus on the Mavs. Attacked the basket, which is what we were lacking. And Grant Afseth actually just came out with a tweet from Luka saying he needs to be more aggressive attacking downhill. He said he shot too many shots in the first half. That was not good shots, basically, and it wasn't aggressive enough. So he just has to stay aggressive and find the open man, which I think is something very mature for Luka to say because we've seen in the past that he'll typically just rely on the 3-point shot. He shot 12 threes today and only made 4. So I think at a certain point, you have to mature and say, I'm not hitting my threes today. Let me attack the basket, either get a bucket, throw the lob, or find my shooters. And a guy like Kyrie, you have to let Kyrie get the ball more in the fourth when he's hot like that. Kyrie barely had the ball in the fourth. And, he missed 2 shots in the second half. He had a 20-plus point third quarter. He's just got to have the ball more. So I think those are some things you look at. I mean, what do you guys think about how Gafford and Lively will respond to Zubats in game 2?
I trust and believe that Daniel Gafford is gonna have one hell of a game in game 2. Not like I'm not saying he's gonna go crazy and drop 20, but I think he is going. Gafford, every time I've seen, out of the rare occasions he hasn't played his best, and especially after seeing what he said, he's like, I'm going to play better. Because I think I don't remember the quote exactly, but I did see it on Twitter. He was like, I wasn't ready to play playoff basketball. He's like, I was just kind of running up and down the court. He's like, best believe I want to contribute. I think he's going to look to be more. I don't want. Yes, aggressive because he always plays aggressive, but he's gonna want to be more physical with Zubac.
Right.
I think because I think we kind of gave him too much breathing room. Lively, I think the biggest thing is he just has to. I don't want to say rebound, because I'm trying to remember, Lively and Gafford's minutes kind of blended to me because our center position today just was not strong. But I think both of them have to make the Clippers not the Clippers, but make someone like Zubac or the other Clippers stay in the paint more or not play 5 out, if that makes sense. Because, Luka likes to get that switch with Zubac, pull him out the paint. You need to create that fear that if we get Zubac out the paint, Lively or Gafford is going to go in there. And that also goes for our other lob threats like PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr.
Yeah, and,
We just
and
got to
you bring up a point there, and I think Luka wasn't aggressive enough with the switch on Zubats today. I thought he was very pass reliant, and I thought, I mean, guys, we know Zubats is not an athletic guy. Take him to the basket and finish. Get the foul. I mean, I'm not worried about Zubats guarding Luka at all. Amir?
yeah. Luka just looked hesitant in a couple of
Yeah.
plays that were just really out of character for him, where he didn't know what he wanted to do with the ball, or where he would just dribble at top of the key on Zubats for 8 seconds, and he drives, and then he didn't know if he wanted to shoot or drive or it was kind of very uncharacteristic for him. Uh, in terms of Lively and Gafford, I'm honestly not worried at all, which might be a little weird. But honestly, I think in the second half, just watching the game, our interior defense actually improved a lot. Like the points they were getting in the paint in the second half were just more circumstantial. Like for instance, that one play comes to mind where they were on the fast break and Gafford got a block, I think, and then the ball just happened to fall into Terrence Mann's hands. And he just like put up a layup, right? So like stuff like that, where like um, we just kind of got unlucky in the
Yeah.
paint, and then a lot of the damage they did in the second half was just outside of the paint, like threes, stuff like that, off the dribble. A couple of Paul George shots come to mind. Um, so I think that both those guys, now that they've had their taste of playoff basketball, they know like what the intensity's like. They know what's expected of them. They'll be fine. Actually, something I liked from the Mavs throughout the game, honestly, is despite the score, the intensity level improved throughout the game. Where, we were down 30, but like I felt like the Mavs through like from the first like in the first half, obviously the intensity wasn't really there. They weren't really locked in all the way. But in the second half, it looked better, even if the role players didn't, play as well or didn't have a big offensive effect. They just looked like more locked in. Even PJ, just like his assignment on PG, he made him take some tough shots.
He did. He did. And, when you look at it, man, and you look at this game one box score, I mean, Terrence Mann shoots 35% from three. He shot 3 for 3 today. Amir Coffey shoots 37% from three. He shot 50%, 2 for 4. Russell Westbrook shoots 27%. He shot 2 for 4 from three. The whole Clippers team shot 50% from three. And obviously James Harden led that crew. He was 6 for 11. And James Harden's a 38% three-point shooter. I mean, guys, I don't like what a lot of Mavs fans don't get is like the Clippers, outside of Paul George, who struggled a little bit, everyone else played their highest potential basketball. And Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving and the Mavs core played hot take. They played their worst basketball in the first half since they got PJ and Gafford. So, I mean, when you look at that and realize that we were able to cut it to damn near single digits by the middle of the fourth, I think you walk away with some positives on this game. Regardless of if Kawhi comes back for game two or not, I do believe in this Mavs team to win game two. I think Kyrie and Luka, man, sort of what Evan said earlier about Gaff coming out after a bad game. That's how I picture Kyrie and Luka. Other than our regular season where we lost the last two games because our two main guys sat out and a bunch of starters and role players sat out, we haven't lost 2 straight games probably since that little Pacers Cavs buzzer beater stuff. We were like 18-1 in that time before that, and so 2 straight games isn't something you really see for the Mavericks to lose. And I think if you win game two, you put yourself in a beautiful position for game 3 and 4 to where it's the first home game in the AAC in a year or 2 years. And you have momentum coming in with a win. So I think, bro, I mean, this game too, I mean, I know everyone says like in the regular season, the playoffs, like biggest game of the year, blah, blah, blah. This is like the biggest game of the year. This is going to define how our series is probably going to go. Because I'd say 80% chance that whoever wins this next game is going to win the series. So looking at it, man, I really like Dallas in game two. I think the resiliency will be shown. I think Kyrie and Luka both getting frustrated and trying to hype the guys up in today's game will pay off. And yeah, where are your guys' final takes for game two as we wrap this up? I'm gonna say the Mavs get an 8-point win. Luka and Kyrie combined for 55 plus points, and I'm gonna say the Mavs X factor in that game will be PJ Washington.
I think I'm gonna go for game two. For sure, I think Luke and Kyrie might get 60. I really do. I think Kyrie's gonna be more aggressive. Well, not that he wasn't aggressive, but Luka's gonna be more aggressive going to the rim because wasn't he? I think he led the league this year and attacking the rim, field goal percentage or something like that.
He did.
And I think that'll open up more shots for Kyrie because when Luka drives to the rim, that forces more people to collapse on him because he has that much gravity.
Right.
So I think they'll get 60. I think another 30 piece from both of them, or 40 from one, 20 from the other. In terms of X Factor, I like PJ Washington, but I kind of expect, like, I know I'm getting PJ Washington. I think that if Josh Green can just do what he did today, as in energizing, even if it's not in the box score, whether it's
Well, he
fighting,
also
fighting
he had
for
two
tough
steals
plays.
and he had 2 steals in a block.
Yeah, no, two steals. But I'm just saying, like, if he, yes, get the two steals, yes, the defense, but I'm saying, like, hustle play wise, if he can just make the Clippers uncomfortable with hustle plays, get loose balls, fly over those screens, I think that he's going to bring an energy to this team that's going to make everyone else around him just play better. So that's who I think is going. Also, I did want to add another thing to this game is just you got to remember, it's been a year since half these guys have played playoff basketball. This is probably we're back.
2
We
years.
got to get used to it.
2 years.
So yeah, oh yeah, 2 years, damn. But yeah, it was probably we just got to get used to this again too. So
Amir, what's your take for the game and who's your X factor?
Mavs win by 18, where it'll be close for 3 quarters, and then we run away
Damn.
at the end. Run
On
away
the
at the
road?
end. On the road.
Is this with Kawhi or without Kawhi, or regardless?
wow,
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I think we're gonna have a huge fourth. We're gonna have a huge fourth quarter. That's just my feeling. Uh,
I respect.
Luka and Kai 60, but I think it's gonna be Luka more. He's gonna have over 35. I'm gonna say.
Bro,
Um,
if this happens, you're blowing up on Twitter, bro.
You think
X
we're getting like that
Factor.
vintage Luka?
I'm gonna say there's gonna be two X Factors. Exum and Derek Jones Jr. I think those guys are gonna bounce back from really poor performances. I'm gonna say that the Mavs are gonna figure out the paint situation on offense a little better. Gonna figure out a way to just bet either on the driving kicks like corner threes or just figure out a way to just penetrate the paint somehow. I think that's what's gonna open up the game. Whether it's gonna be foul trouble from Zubats or some of their bigs or something, or something else.
I like it. I like the take. Game 2 is going to be exciting, man. I'm very excited for it. I think, and you just like think of the times that like Luka and Kyrie have dominated games, like the Nuggets game, or even like the Philly game last year where they combined for like 82. Those kind of games, like, bro, you just think of those and pray it happens, because those are just the best kind of ones when they both go crazy, and I can see it happening. But Luka does cook the Clippers pretty often, so I could see a Luka masterclass coming. But then again, before we wrap anything up, I think just the role players are going to be huge. I think defensively, obviously Gafford and Lively are going to have to step it up, but I think they're going to have to step it up offensively too, finishing easy dunks and running the pick and roll game better. So we'll see how that goes. Game 2, Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, 9 Central Time. So we'll be there. Mavs are not actually be there. I'll be at Game 3 though. Mavs are favored again by 2.5. Obviously, that's with the prediction of Kawhi being out. So we'll see y'all then. Evan, Amir, appreciate you guys hopping on.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Yes, sir. See ya.